This is the Su-57, the Russian fifth-generation fighter. And this is the Zircon, a Russian hypersonic missile. And we're going to see these two working together very soon. Maybe. Or we are going to see some new hypersonic weapons that have been in development for a while, and they are virtually unknown in the West. There are plenty of news about the Su-57. New air-to-air weapons, new operations, new drone missile hybrids, new commercial prospects, and some details about the so-called EI system. But in this video, we focus on hypersonics. In fact, despite what some charlatans are trying to shove down your throat, the Su-57 is alive and kicking, it is being produced, and it is getting better and better. And the kind of stuff we're going to discuss today, you won't find it anywhere else on YouTube. Hi, I'm Gus. Welcome to Millennium 7. The Su-57 doesn't really need much of an introduction. The first flight happened in 2010. It was first commissioned in 2020. Now the Russians have one regiment of aircraft operational. The Russians don't give the exact production numbers, but there should be about 26 aircraft in service now, potentially more, because they may have not reported some of the deliveries in recent times. The production is ongoing and the Russians are working on increasing the production rate because recently it had some commercial success. Algeria bought the aircraft and India, which was involved in the original project, then they left, are now back in the game because they recently refused to acquire the F-35, and the Russians has made a very interesting, commercially speaking, proposal to the Indians, which would include a lot of technology transfers. It is a stealth aircraft, even though stealth is not considered as important as it is in Western designs. It is probably the most maneuverable fighter jet ever built. It features the most complete suite of sensors ever installed on a fighter. And despite what the usual charlatans want you to believe, the aircraft does feature sensor fusion and some cooperative functions. Probably not to the extent and completeness of the F-35, but Su-30, Su-35, MiG-31 already have cooperative features, so it would be very strange that the Su-57 doesn't have any. The most recent production variant is the Su-57 M1 that has several improvements. For example, it seems that the radar now is using gallium nitride components. A system for intellectual assistance, as the Russians call it, has been added, which is basically a system that, on the basis of the tactical situations, gives suggestions to the pilot about what to do. But the most important upgrade, finally, is this Daily 30, that is the AL-51 engine, which closes the only gap the aircraft had with the previous engine, the AL-41F1, and the main problem was that Super Cruise was not available at low altitude. But from my point of view, the most important thing to understand is that the aircraft is built according to the Russian doctrine. So every comparison with Western aircraft is an apple and oranges comparison. And if you want to know more about the Russian air-powered doctrine, I happen to be writing a book about it. Please scan the QR code on screen now to learn more about this project and eventually to support it. But while we are at it, please give some love to the sponsor that made this video possible, FlexiSpot.
I was a FlexiSpot paying customer before this sponsorship, and they were kind enough to send me the E7 Plus standing desk with an elegant tabletop for my new office. This thing is built like a tank. I mean, it is literally built with carbon steel. It is sturdy, very stable, and it doesn't wobble when it is in the high position. The E7 Plus, in particular, has a 4-leg design which is not only more stable, it can lift 200 kilos. And the motion is so smooth that you won't spill water from a glass. Its height is adjustable between 66 and 131 centimeters, which means that everyone can find a comfortable configuration. The digital keyboard with a LED display can memorize 4 settings, and it features a safety lock for children. There's also a USB charging port because why not? There are also many high-quality accessories available for mounting, storage, cable management, and so on. Go to the FlexiSpot website to learn more. And now it is the time to act to get yourself one of the great FlexiSpot stand-in desks. In fact, the FlexiSpot 9th anniversary sale is ongoing. Please click on the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to enter the world of new working, new living. Please support the people who support me.
At the end of July 2025, General Alexander Maximtsev mentioned in an interview the fact that the Su-57 is going to receive hypersonic weapons. And this actually unleashed plenty of hypotheses in all the news outlets. All these news outlets speculated on what these hypersonic weapons could be, and everybody was mentioning the Zircon, which is a Russian, already in service hypersonic missile. Many observers, many analysts were suggesting that the Zircon was going to be integrated on the Su-57, but is it really possible to do that? Is it really worth doing that? Let's see. The Zircon is the first truly hypersonic missile in service in the world. Development started in the 2010s, the first test was in 2017, and it entered service in 2023. Various sources report that the propulsion is based on a scramjet, but I have reason to believe otherwise, and we will get back to this in a minute. Whatever the propulsion, the missile is capable of reaching Mach 9 with a range of about 1,000 kilometers. However, speed and range change radically with the flight profile the missile is following. In fact, the Zircon could be launched in a semi-ballistic trajectory, and in this case the range will be long, or it could be used as an atmospheric cruise missile, and in this case the range, it will be shorter. In a semi-ballistic trajectory, the speeds will be high and it will keep a high speed for longer. In an atmospheric flight, the speed will be lower and will be kept for a shorter time. So far it is only a naval missile. It can be launched by the standard Russian VLS, and it can be used in the anti-ship or land attack role. This is the only clear picture of the Zircon that we have, and as you can see, we don't see much. This cap here is not the missile nose. This comes off. It is just a system to reorient the missile after the vertical launch in the direction of flight. The missile body is cylindrical. Here we have some folded fins, and we can see the upper part of the first stage of the acceleration booster. And I don't see any air intake, so it really seems like a normal rocket, not a scramjet. A scramjet is a type of jet engine capable of flying at very, very high speed because it is capable of having a supersonic flow in the combustion chamber, which allows the engine to function even at very high Mach numbers. But being a jet engine, it would require an air intake, and we see none. I made some back-of-the-envelope calculations. I calculated the missile density and compared it with other Russian rockets that we know. If propulsion was based on a scramjet engine, there would be a cavity inside the missile and the density would be low. But the calculations, on the contrary, say that it is even denser than other weapons in roughly the same class, like the Kinjal. And since we know that the Kinjal is indeed a rocket, even the Zircon seems to be a rocket. Now the problem is, can you fit a Zircon on a Su-57? There are 4 types of issues: electronics, weight, size, and payload separation. In terms of electronics, I have no doubt that they will find a way. In fact, the aircraft, or better, the aircraft computers must be capable to pass to the missile electronic the fire solution, that is, telling the missile, go there, hit that. In terms of weight, the missile weighs about 4 tons. That's the most reasonable estimate that I could find. The payload of the Su-57, the max payload, is 7,500 kilos, which means that the aircraft can carry one. However, the problem is, how do you carry it? If it is carried between the nacelles, you need a place to install a pylon to suspend the missile. It could be the central bulkhead, but structurally speaking, I don't know how healthy it is. And anyway, the Russians had to develop some particular ejectors to allow for the supersonic separation of the payloads stored in the aircraft base. So you would expect that the separation of the zircon would not be that clean as well from that position. It is always possible that the missile could be suspended on a side pylon, but in this case the aircraft would fly in a very asymmetric configuration that is never ideal. Moreover, with such a hefty payload, the aircraft would surely not be capable of going supersonic, and releasing the payload at supersonic speed is a big advantage because the missile doesn't have to go through the sound barrier where the drag coefficient rises steeply. So I'm not entirely sure that installing a zircon on the Su-57 really makes sense. And so far the Russians, they have developed specific weapons for the Su-57 that either fit in the base or they are stealth themselves, so they don't ruin the stealth of the aircraft too much. And General Maximtsev himself said that these new hypersonic weapons are not going to diminish the aircraft stealth. So this hypothesis that so many news outlets put forward, that the zircon is going to be integrated with the Su-57, in my opinion, it's a non sequitur. It's probably not going to happen. I believe that the air-launched variant of the zircon will be destined to bombers, like the Tu-160 or the Tu-22 M3. So, if the zircon integration is not likely, what are these hypersonic weapons that Maximtsev was referring to? Is it just hot air? Well, probably no. And the weapons that we are going to cover now, hardly known in the West. They are called the Gremlin, Lichinka, and Ostrota. These are projects that we know they exist because they have been mentioned by at least semi-official sources, but we know very little about. These represent the second generation of Russian hypersonic weapons. We will see that they are either being designed or in test, but the entire development has been very secretive. And we have no pictures whatsoever, so please forgive the stock footage or the AI-generated pictures. The Gremlin is an hypersonic weapon whose development started in 2017, but it was first publicly mentioned in 2023. It is a hypersonic air-to-ground or anti-ship missile designed for tactical fighters. The Zircon, the Kinjal are all big weapons. This one is expected to be small. Sometimes you can find this project referenced as the GZUR, which is an acronym that I have no idea what it means. The important thing is that this time it seems that it will be indeed powered by a scramjet. It is known as Izdelye 70 and it is developed by the Soyuz Design Bureau. To be fair, the Russians call it a ducted rocket engine with supersonic combustion at a speed of Mach 1.5 in the combustion chamber. The weapon is expected to be about 6 meters long, weigh 1,500 kilos, and fly at about Mach 6. The design range is expected to be 1500 kilometers, but it seems quite unrealistic. It is expected to fit into the base of the Su-57, and this is pretty much everything we know about it. Its current status should be being tested, but we haven't seen it in combat yet. However, even if 1500 kilometers seems a lot, you have to consider that this will be a scramjet, so basically a very fast cruise missile, whose range could be longer than the Zircon. The Zircon can fly different profiles, and its range changes a lot. If it flies a semi-ballistic trajectory, then the range is very long. If it is flying an atmospheric flat trajectory, then the range is much shorter. This new weapon with scramjet propulsion will be slower to a point, but it probably will have a longer range. As I said, 1500 kilometers seems a lot, but I do expect that the range to be quite long. The second weapon is the Lichinka or the Larchinka MD. I found both spelling in different sources. The project started in 2019 and was mentioned publicly for the first time in 2021. This is a Su-57 specific weapon, and it is designed to replace the KH-31. KH-31 is the current anti-radar weapon in service in the Russian Air Force. It is quite a successful weapon. The Chinese use it as well. It has been sold to many countries, and it is a ramjet. So it's very fast, but not hypersonic. This Lichinka replacement is expected to be propelled by the same Izdelie 70 that we mentioned for the Gremlin, which makes me think that it could be some sort of derivative from the other project. However, this one is expected to reach Mach 8, so a bit faster than the Gremlin, which probably will mean it will have a shorter range. And anyway, as an anti-radar missile, extremely long ranges are probably less useful, particularly to attack mobile radars on a ship or just mobile radars on the ground. So even in this case, this is basically what we know. It has been mentioned a few times in various sources, in various publications. Again, it should be in testing, but we have no reference, no recent update about the state of the program. The third weapon is the Ostrota. This is supposed to be a small and light weapon weighing less than a ton for tactical aircraft. The range in this case is expected to be around 500 kilometers. It is not clear if the entire project is called Izdelie 71 or the ramjet engine, yes, it is another ramjet, always developed by the Soyuz Design Bureau, is called Izdelie 71. If the latter, it could be a derivative of the Izdelie 70, just smaller in size for smaller weapons. As I said, it is expected to weigh less than 1,000 kilos. The design point is Mach 6, so only slightly hypersonic, and the range is expected to be about 500 kilometers. The target platform that they had in mind was the Su-34 and the Su-35, so this is probably not a weapon specific for the Su-57. It should be in testing now, and again, this is all we know. A common misconception is that the Russian military-industrial complex is not even remotely comparable with the American one. It is smaller, more primitive. It's not true. The military industry in Russia is extremely developed, and it is capable of managing multiple projects about similar weapons according to what the military believes is going to be useful. And the very fact that these are state-owned companies makes even easier to manage these projects. These companies don't really need to make any profit, so they can afford to do anything that they have the resources for, including managing 3 important projects of 3 similar weapons. This is never a problem in Russia, exactly because these companies are state-owned. As long as the salaries are paid, stuff will get done, including high-tech development projects like the 3 that we have just mentioned. Okay, this is the end for this video. Before leaving, some housekeeping. Regular viewers will wonder why I am in the car and where is Otis. Well, I am in the car because I just moved back to Italy for a number of personal reasons, and the house is in really bad conditions. It's in need of TLC, way more than I anticipated, so I'm afraid there will be a few videos in these makeshift conditions. About Otis, well, he is off. Yes, I did that because if he saw the house in the condition it is, he would go ballistic and he will burn his motors trying to clean everything. So it is better to keep him asleep. So, thank you very much for watching. Please, if you can, support the channel on Patreon or by being a member. Your help, particularly in this changing situation, is sorely needed. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.